Yeah, could you please, okay, thank you. As Carsten said, my name is Katja Manec-Juroš, and I'm the practitioner's representative in the RESILOC project, and I'm also Sendai Framework national focal point for Slovenia. And my task would be, I hope I'll be quick enough, to somehow show that how the RESILOC project fits into the global perspective, the EU perspective in the area of resilience. So starting with the RESILOC guiding principle, where the resilience is an overarching ambition and also a strategic concept that benefits from being applied to local context with local resources. Focusing them on the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction, Agenda 2030 for Sustainable Development, and Paris Agreement on Climate Change. We know that these are the three global frameworks that were adopted in 2015, and they are very much interrelated. Sendai Framework and Agenda 2030 are already related also within the SDGs 1, 11, and 13, while reporting to Sendai monitoring, while national reporting to Sendai monitoring, and Paris Agreement on Climate Change is also very much also related to so-called reducing the climate-related risks. And since we know that Earth is calling SOS, and we have to do much more in this area. Please, John, next slide. So coming down to the EU perspective, we know that recently in May 2021, there has been a revised Union Civil Protection Mechanism that introduced also Union disaster resilience goals. And taking the fact that Slovenia is now holding the presidency of the EU Council, we just in July organized the presidency workshop that was also titled Towards Disaster Resilience Goals. And here you can see that everything is connected, everything is everything works hand in hand. And while preparing for this workshop and for the potential outcomes, we also studied other EU documents, especially those on the climate change protection area, focusing on European Green Deal and EU strategy on adaptation to climate change. And the very interesting, let's say, sentence that I just took from the strategy is that the local level is the bedrock of the adaptation, and so that EUs must support to help increase local resilience. And coming to that, we can conclude that building resilience of local communities would then contribute to building national resilience and subsequently also to the EU resilience and subsequently to global one. Next slide, John, please. Just a couple of words, since we're running out of time, from the Slovenian perspective. The Slovenian presidency motto, Together Resilience Europe, shows that we are also, as a country and as a EU, very much aware of the resilience and the importance of the resilience. Here on the slide, I just took the most important drafts of the workshop outcomes that also reflect the RESILOC perspective. And I will read just the last one, which reflects the local EU global perspective. So that there is a need for a common understanding of the scope of the risks, disasters, and their dimensions. Next slide, please. So coming down to the role of local communities within RESILOC, we studied the two big main global campaigns, Making Cities Resilience, that was launched last year by UNDRR, and 100 Resilient Cities Initiative by Rockefeller Foundation. And there's also the main outcome that local communities are the main carriers of resilience building in the society. And therefore, within the project, we some kind realize that building community resilience can minimize the negative effects of disasters and prevent future humanitarian crises, and is thus considered as a pillar of the relevant international and EU strategies. And the strategic objective is also the heart of the goals to be addressed by the RESILOC project. We can now talk about outcomes, but later on at the end of the project about RESILOC recommendations that will focus on building resilience at local level. And we find this as a logical step, next logical step, since there is no EU level approach available at this stage. Next slide, please. And last but not least, coming back to global post-15 commitments and also to OECD perspective of risks. So we know also risk is very much also economic issue, where it's emphasized that integrated and effective approaches are needed to strengthen people and system resilience to ensure that we meet our post-2015 commitments, was said by OECD. And so tools and engagement process are required to do this and somehow to make it real, a method that is strong and comprehensive enough to address the local context and, of course, to minimize the local gaps within the common idea from moving from risk to resilience thinking should be put in place.